Hi, I'm Jacob M. Appel, and I'm going to read to you the opening pages of my mystery novel, Wedding Wipeout. Chapter 1, The Challenge. Rabbi Koppelmacher had worked himself into one of those states where his eyes gleamed. He stood behind the podium in the small chapel, raking his bushy gray beard with one hand. He raised the other arm intermittently and pushed an imaginary button in the musty air to emphasize a point. Both Mrs. Conk, the cleaning lady, and I had seen him in this condition countless times before, and both of us knew better than to interrupt him. So Mrs. Conch continued to dust the pews, and I pretended to remain unconvinced, even though, only a couple of minutes into the rabbi's lecture, I would have willingly sold my soul upon his say-so. So tell me, Steinmetz, are we to believe that Joshua stopped the sun in its path? That's what the Torah tells us, I replied, knowing I was stepping into a trap. Does it actually say so? Demanded Rabbi Koppelmacher. He paused to convey the impression that he was genuinely pondering the possibility. Does it really say that the prophet Joshua halted the sun in the sky? But that cannot be, because we both know that the earth revolves around the sun and not vice versa. I suppose you have to take it on faith, I answered. This happens to be my personal view, as well as the reply that the rabbi sought to provoke. I'm a big believer in faith. On faith? Gasped Rabbi Koppelmacher. His cheeks suffused a deep crimson, and from his expression one might have thought he'd swallowed the entire whitefish. On faith? Don't be a schlemiel, Steinmetz. Children and animals take things on faith. Rabbis think rationally. I just thought. No, Steinmetz, you didn't. You didn't think. If you thought about it, you would have realized that the Torah describes what appeared to happen. All we know is what the incident looked like, and it looked as though Joshua stopped the sun. Maybe it was an illusion. An illusion? The rabbi stepped around the podium and deposited both hands triumphantly in the pockets of his jacket. Let's say I tell you I'm going to stop the sun, Steinmetz. What's the first thing you do? I send you over to the window and have you check the sun's position. Does that make sense? I nodded. And then I have you look at the clock, okay? That way you know exactly where the sun stood at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I resisted the urge to point out that Joshua didn't own a clock. Now, if we chat here for 3 hours, and then I have you check the window, and you find the sun is in the same place, what would you conclude? But that's not possible, I answered. Of course not, Steinmetz, but if it were, you'd naturally conclude that I stopped the sun. Am I right, or am I right? Well, yes, but in the case you wouldn't have stopped the sun. Of not necessarily, said the rabbi. He removed his hands from his pockets and rubbed them together. Maybe we chatted for 3 hours, and I drank your drink. I let you sleep for another 21 hours, but moved the clock forward 3 hours to 6 o'clock. Now, for a few minutes at least, it will seem to you as though I stopped the sun. What do you say to that, Steinmetz? But I figured it out pretty soon. When I checked my pocket planner, for instance, and my wife would be mighty upset if I hadn't come home for supper, not to mention that Mrs. Conch would find us when she locked up for the sanctuary for the day. Mrs. Conch looked up and shrugged, as if to say, my job's cleaning, not philosophizing. All true, Steinmetz. But the ancient Israelites didn't have, what do you call it, a pocket planner? And if I drugged your wife too, then she wouldn't miss you. The larger the illusion, the easier it is to pull off. You don't really believe Joshua drugged the ancient Israelites. The rabbi retrieved his briefcase from the side table and sat down by the open window. All I'm saying, Steinmetz, is there's a rational explanation for everything. Forget about your silly faith. If you want proof of God, it's to be found in the miracle of reason. Only a divine being could create a world in which everything can be explained by careful analysis. I was about to object when an unexpected visitor pushed open the doors of the chapel. He was a tall, thin man of about 40 who walked with a slight limp. His face, in contrast to his body, appeared broad and flat like a potato knish. Our visitor sported a 3-piece suit and carried an attaché case under one arm. The prodigal son returns, announced the rabbi, rising to his feet. Hardly, our visitor answered. Color filled his cheeks. And to what do we owe this honor? Asked Rabbi Koppelmacher. Maybe you've come to lead us in the afternoon prayers? The rabbi's tone puzzled me. And effusive and frenetic as he could be with me and Mrs. Conch, he usually adopted a degree of reserve with the congregants. He must have noticed my confusion, for he quickly revealed the identity of our unexpected guest. Rabbi Steinmetz, the assistant rabbi, he introduced me. This is Marshall Green, the former assistant rabbi, now junior partner in Abercrombie and Green. So this was Marshall Green, rabbi turned lawyer, or, as Rabbi Koppelmacher referred to him, the one that had gotten away. Rumors abounded that Green had an affair with a congregant and had been asked to leave, or he had gone to law school out of curiosity and then jumped at the 6-digit salaries. Some people even claimed that he was now attending Episcopal services for political reasons. But the rabbi always referred to his former disciple with the utmost respect, and even if the rumors were true, Rabbi Koppelmacher certainly didn't believe them. Seeing my predecessor in the flesh, I tended to doubt the rumors. Green had too many premature wrinkles for a rich man or a philanderer. So to what do we owe this honor? Rabbi Koppelmacher asked. He had taken Green by the arm, and I feared he might examine his face with his hand like a blind man. I thought you were too good for our law. Green blushed again, wiping his forehead with a handkerchief. Can we please go someplace private? He asked. He looked at me, the three of us. I admit that I was flattered by his decision to include me. He probably remembered what it was like to be the assistant rabbi. The slights do come with the territory. So it's that kind of visit, said the rabbi enthusiastically, as he led us out of the chapel and into the corridor. 5 minutes later, we were ensconced in the rabbi's office, a small, dark chamber distinguished by exposed rafters and garish yellow paint. The rabbi leaned back in his chair and lit a cigar. For several moments, we sat in silence and listened to the hum of the air conditioner. Well, said the rabbi, new? Green crossed and uncrossed his legs. I have a legal problem, he said softly, or rather, a legal puzzle. Then you should consult an attorney, suggested the rabbi. He let forth a full laugh that seemed to ripple down his beard into his chest. You know how you always said that there's a rational explanation for everything, continued Green? Well, I have a case that seems to defy all logic. It's not even a case, really, just an episode. And, well, I hope maybe you might be able to help explain it. I thought our law wasn't good enough for you, teased the rabbi, but possibly you're coming to your senses. There is a rational explanation for everything. Green rummaged through his attaché case and removed a manila folder. You may have heard of Irvin Eisenstein? Eisenstein's egg creams, exclaimed the rabbi. I remember the shop on Delancey Street, right next to Jonas Schlitzel's Knishes. The man must have been in his early 40 years, on the earth 40 years. 43, answered Rabbi. 43, answered Green. 43, repeated the rabbi. 43 years this April. As you may or may not know, Irving Eisenstein died a very wealthy man, king of the egg cream empire. They marketed powdered drinks too, until shortly before he died, when the family sold the brand to General Foods. New? Asked the rabbi. And what does this have to do with the price of kugel in Brooklyn? And I will stop there. I encourage all of you to consider reading Wedding Wipeout to find out more about the mystery. Thank you.